All right, what do you think? Should we get started?
Absolutely.
This is Mike Byrnes from Byrnes Consulting. I'm happy here to do another webinar with
Jan Hunter.
Jan Hunter, who I've known going way, way, way back. An excellent PR resource, and that's a great fit with our topic today, which is PR and how it's evolved and some do's and don'ts. Right? I think we have a better, more official name than that, but um, I'm super excited to have Jan with us.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. It's a
Before
pleasure.
we dive in, you want to give a minute about who you are and
Sure, sure. So I've been in PR for many, many moons. It's interesting. I started out actually in radio. I was a radio news reporter, street anchor, and covered all different types of stories, worked at, AM, FM, various markets, various cities, loved it. Crazy kind of career, but you meet wonderful people, amazing people. A bit stressful, but it was, I loved it. And it was interesting. All the time, people were, coming to me. Oh, put my person on the air. Can we talk about this product? Can you interview this person? And that was sort of my first entree into PR and what it was all about. And I was like, And I loved the creativity of it, and how people would pitch me and um, some of the ways that they did it. And it was always in the back of my mind. And I think after about 8 or 9 years of being in radio, I just decided to leave and make a go of it, and didn't have a job, but I sort of slowly morphed my way by doing some writing for some people, freelance writing. And then I got a job at some agencies, a few agencies, and sort of worked my way up the ladder, and also a hotel. And then eventually started my own business, and Hunter and Company Communications. It's undergone many iterations over the years, but we're still going. And it's been great. But I think the radio background gave me a sort of strong framework, for PR, because I think it gave me a little bit more trust, with journalists that I was pitching, because they knew that I was a former reporter.
yeah,
So I think that helped a lot. So that's how I got into the biz.
yeah. I mean, I'm a baseball coach. I'm running to be a baseball coach after this. Dealing with umpires, I'm giving a weird example to bring it back to PR. Like, if you're an umpire yourself too, then you know how, as a coach, you know how to communicate with them because
Right.
you can each tell them, oh, I umpire too, and then all of a sudden you have a connection, right? Like, so same thing. Like, I used to be where you sat, and and you can put yourself in their shoes, and you know how to pitch them better too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's sort of a bond. And many people, many of them would be like, oh, yeah, I remember you on radio, or I remember hearing you. And I think it just gave me a little more credibility than someone just saying, oh, hey, I'm from this agency, not, anything negative against that. But I think it gave me a little more credibility.
Nice. Well, that's a great background. Anything else before we jump in?
No, I mean, I feel blessed that I was able to do that, sort of working both sides of the coin, if you will. And I think it's also helped when I talk to clients. They've been a little impressed, I guess, with my background. And again, I just think it's given me a lot more credibility having been a journalist and knowing, how to form a story, to pitch, and what a reporter would like and would not like, and not to waste a reporter's time. So yeah, I feel I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah. I mean, even before we get into the questions, like just knowing how to interact with them, they're always on deadline, when not to reach out to them, when to reach out to them, right?
Yeah,
Not selling marketing pitches as opposed to stories, or probably, right?
correct. I mean, as I've always said, it's so reactive. It's such a relationship business, working with reporters, um, getting to know them, and not just reaching out first thing, oh, I've got this story. Hey, listen to me. You know, when I have clients, I often try to set up meet and greets. So a reporter can get to know the CEO or the president, get to know what they're about, get to know what the company is about. And that doesn't mean an automatic story, but it means they'll put them in their Rolodex, so to speak, and they'll, call on them down the line. And I think the reporters like that. They trust that from me. And then I'm very, very careful of doing, research of whom I'm pitching, what they write, uh, what kind of stories, they like to cover. And then, as you say, the deadlines is so important not to approach, let's say a Boston Globe reporter at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. when they're on deadline. I'm not going to do that unless, of course, it's a breaking, something huge that fell into my lap. Yes, I would. But, I'm going to be respectful of that. And also when you get into the following up on your pitches, with reporters, I think it's sort of a rookie mistake, some PR people starting out, they'll email the reporter, 5 million times. Did you get my pitch? Did you get my call? Did you get this? And once or twice is enough. And then maybe wait a few weeks, maybe reach out again, but don't overdo it and don't waste the reporter's time.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to go back to some of our do's and don'ts in a minute because you touched on a couple of things I want to go back. But before we do, you've seen the industry evolve. So maybe you could take us where it was, where it is now, and where it might be going.
Well, obviously, when I started out, there was a lot less, there was hardly any social media, and if there was, people didn't really think about using it enough because they were like, what is this, LinkedIn? What is this? X, I don't think it didn't exist back then, obviously. And now there's just so many ways for people to consume content. It's crazy from, as I just mentioned, X to Blue Sky to LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook to what have you, a million ways. And traditional media has become, as a result, so fragmented,
Yeah.
And obviously they've also lost ad dollars and revenue. And of course, going along with that, the gorilla in the room is AI and how that's, evolved in the PR world. And obviously AI has been around for a long time, but I think we're all sort of getting more used to how can we use this or, what are the tools we can use best for PR? And that has gone crazy. And I think it's just going to increase and increase and increase, especially as far as doing research, what reporters are out there, the content, using it for obviously writing press releases. And many people do already, although I still really and sort of enjoy just doing it manually, but I'll look maybe a little bit of ChatGPT. But again, you have to be careful of that as well, because, you can lose the human element and the empathy factor. And also, that there can be errors. So I think you really have to check if you're using AI, let's say with writing a press release, that it's accurate. But it's just gone like gangbusters from when I started. When, let's say, there were 10 channels out there, and now there's 100. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I want to go back one topic. You had mentioned non-traditional media. So when you work with a client, you probably go, do you want to be local or national? Do you want to be in the industry or not in the industry? But a big piece now is whether you want to be traditional or non-traditional media, right? So they should be budgeting dollars and allocating resources to non-traditional media, right? That's where a
Right.
lot of the eyeballs are.
Correct. Social media. I mean, with so many clients, I will be on X and posting something about them. Whether it's a blog posting or, an event coming up, commenting on something that's written and keeping in mind the client and what the client is about. Definitely the addition of social media is part of the ad dollars now. Whereas before it was just, let's just reach out to broadcast. Let's do maybe some radio and let's do those publications that we're used to doing. And of course, depending on the product or the person, local or national or international. But now you definitely have to think of the social aspect
Yeah.
and using that and using it pretty much on a daily basis.
I even will have conversations about, it depends on your target market, right? So if you want to get in front of widows, for example, you could try to go to the Wall Street Journal, which is the big national publication, right? Or maybe you get published on a funeral home's website with articles and tips for people that are going through that. And that's the target market you want. Like that one little project might be more fruitful than blasting out to the whole wide world. And that's kind of just an eye opener. Like just be creative. Like what is out there that can get you in front of the audience you want to get in front of, right? Um,
Right. And it's always trying to, as I've always said, if you can't get in the front door, get in the back door somehow. Um, Thinking about, okay, I can't reach this reporter. How can I reach this reporter? Or how can I reach maybe a colleague of his or hers? Can I reach out regarding a story that they've already done and keeping that in mind in my pitch and offering them some sources, not pitching my own client,
right.
let's say, but offering some sources that I think could help him or her. So I'm always trying to be, you're always trying to be, I don't know if it's a word, but just offering yourself up, not pitching yourself or your client all the time, but offering up an idea or a source. And I've done that many, many times, particularly with this one reporter at the Globe. I'll email or call him because I know him pretty well and say, hey, you know what? I heard this is going on. You might want to look into it. It might be a good story idea for, the month of July or something. And people, they appreciate that, just like anybody would, because, everybody's so busy. Reporters get like 200 press releases, emails, calls a day. So if I can, help lighten their load, they're going to appreciate that, I think, and remember it. And then they're going to reach out to me more, and the next time when they're doing a story and they need a source.
Yeah, you made their job easier, right? So you
Correct.
become a resource. I love that. And
Correct.
we played around with. We could tell the audience just for fun. We were having a prep conversation, probably our third or fourth call, and I just went into ChatGPT and do a press release for this webinar, and it was amazing how great it came out. Like you said, it needs to be authentic and accurate, and you can't just take it right off the shelf. But I will say that we have to be aware of it in this industry, that the press is going to get inundated because people are going to just be bombarding them. They're going to write articles like crazy. They're going to press releases like crazy, and they're just so now that where they're drowning, they can't keep up with it. Go back to what you said, like being that resource will save them, right? And can you talk a little bit about how much more a journalist has to do now? Like they don't sit around and write one article for the whole month anymore, right?
Oh God, no. I mean, depending on the publication, they might have to publish, post or, everything's posting now rather than publish. Because you have to post for the online version, and then you also want to write the story for let's say for the Globe, for the print edition, right? But they might have to do a couple stories a day. I'm not saying they're huge stories, but one might be just a couple liners, like an update on something. And then one might be a full story. And then if for like the week, there might be a weekly roundup. And then oftentimes, not always, they might be responsible for posting, although they usually have people doing the social media, not them, but under their own accounts, they could certainly post on the Globe's account, let's say the Globe's account. But no, I mean, and then
It's
they have to,
never ending, right?
it's never ending. And then there's also, which is really kind of sad in a way, the whole disinformation thing, and the fake news and all this. And yes, reporters can make mistakes and there can be factual errors, just like any other industry. But I think it's too bad in this climate that there's been so much talk about fake news
Well, it's
when it
also
might just be news that people don't want to hear.
Yeah, but it is also they're under tighter deadlines too, right? So they have a little less time to vet things and
This is true. I mean, I'm not saying it's always, the story is correct, but I think it's become so prominent about that uh, there's disinformation out there that it kind of destroys and puts a negative impact or emphasis on the real news and the real
yeah.
story.
I'm
And
feeling that's,
yeah,
I know we talk about it a lot. I'm sure it's been going on since the start of our country, like just both sides doing things. And
correct,
um
correct.
well that yeah, obviously disinformation kind of goes into mistakes and all that. From a PR standpoint, what are some of those common mistakes you see in the industry?
Well, again, I think not being factual, and that's with almost any industry. But again, like I said, reaching out to a reporter many, many times when you shouldn't in your follow-up and contacting them when they're on deadline, like in the afternoon, or contacting them, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or something. You know what I mean? So you have
Yeah,
to be and doing your research, making sure that you're contacting, let's say, a business reporter at the Wall Street Journal about a story that the journal would cover, that reporter would cover, and not about a story that's something that happened, let's just say in Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? You want to make it something that that the journal would cover and that reporter would cover.
yeah.
And I think often PR people go, oh, let's just contact the Wall Street Journal because it's a national publication, and you have to be careful of that because they're not gonna call you back.
So you're super experienced, right? But imagine a young PR professional, like, oh, I could check off that person's name and that person is, they go crazy. Like, the more people I touch, the better it's going to be. But then they get blacklisted, right? Like, so these companies say, put them in the spam folder, and
Correct.
that's a company-wide decision, right? And that can eventually be like an all Gmail or all Yahoo decision, right? If they get blacklisted enough. So I think I think it's just going to be a battle in general to get into people's inboxes. I think AI is going to filter things in a way that we've never seen before. So again, everything that you're doing, like having the relationship, go dripping on the right people, not the wrong people, like all that stuff matters.
Yeah, it does. And it's so funny. I can remember at so many different places, let's say agencies where I work, they'd be like, oh, did you send an email or did you whatever? And I'd be like, well, yeah, but I also picked up the phone. And they were like, what? It's like, there's nothing like a telephone call,
Right.
especially if you do it kind of in the right way and at the right time. And I think sometimes people are surprised. They're like, wow, they're actually calling me rather than email. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that has often worked in my favor. I can't say it works all the time, but I've often done that, and it's just as I said, if you can't get in the front door, you have to try to get the back door.
Yeah, and I think there's an online door too. And what I
Yeah,
mean by that is you mentioned social media before. I think once you get something in the press, I recommend like forwarding it out to everyone telling them you're going to do that because sometimes they're rewarded by clicks on articles and that types of things, right? So being on the same team as them, you want this to go out to everybody. But then actually, like, so LinkedIn is probably that where more professional articles get shared or segments, whatever you want to call it. But then connect with them on Facebook too, right? And start to build that relationship. Oh, I saw your kid just hit a home run on Sunday. Like that's so awesome. And you
correct,
could go back and forth, right? And then on the 10th one, you could write, oh, by the way, do you need any help? While I'm thinking about you. And
correct,
all of a sudden you're top of mind, right?
correct. It's relational. You don't want to make it transactional. It's a relationship that you want to cultivate and create, and hopefully, become friends and colleagues
Mhm.
with that reporter. And not that I'm not saying you can hang out with them, but maybe you can go have lunch at some point or grab a beer or something,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and they also like to learn more about the client or the industry that you're covering. And if you can help them with sources, again, they're going to be very happy.
So besides like silly typos and press releases and stuff, any other mistakes that you see or
Oh gosh. I think it's just really, it comes down to people to, and again, it's because everything is so fast, as you know, there's so much content out there, and you're moving so fast, especially in agencies, you have so many accounts that you don't take the time to do the research and to plan and to strategize and to think what is the best way to get this message out. Is it a podcast? Is it a press release? Is it a webinar? Is it an event? Is it maybe interactive? Let's use some interactive content. Click on those links, let's hear back from the people. So I don't think, it's almost like there's not enough time in the day for especially people starting out to really think through the best strategy and to be really strategic. I'm not saying everybody does that. I'm just saying it often happens because it's the nature of the beast. PR can be crazy. Excuse me. It can, just like any other career, I guess, you just get sort of caught up in your day.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll piggyback on something you said too. Like when you share the press, it's great. It builds a relationship with the reporter, right? Because they're happy, but it also helps you get more press too, right? It starts to snowball. Once you get one thing, you say, "Oh, my CEO is just in blah blah blah. Would you like to interview him too or her?" And it just there's. I feel like they think the person's vetted. They like the piece. Then unless they're like competitors where they don't want to use the same resources, which I guess could happen, but.
Well, the reporter's not going to use you every week, obviously, because then it gets a little, they're like, what are you doing? But there is that trust factor, and they'll use you more, I think, than others. But again, they have to use other people as well, other clients.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. So I write a lot in my industry, and I got quoted by one person, and he loved it so much he quoted me the next week, 5 weeks in a row, and then I stopped reaching out to him because it's like I'm just I was like I need a break, and then a month went by, and I said, hey, it's been a long time since we talked. If I can help you with anything else, and then sure enough, he quoted me again, right? So it's like I think you got to maximize it the right way, and you don't want to go to the well too much. But
correct. Good point.
what so we kind of talked about some things that you got to be aware of and not do. Any other kind of best practices that people should think about?
Best practices. Aside of doing your research, being strategic, trying to build that trust and credibility, I think moving ahead, we're going to be I guess, trying to learn more about all the AI tools out there that can help us. And there's more and more coming out, I think, every day. And, I think it's already, people have been using data analytics and trying to evaluate your campaigns for years, but I think that's just even going to get more crazy as far as with AI, and helping to measure your campaign, the effectiveness, and reaching more media. I know I personally have to learn a lot more about the tools that I can use. And it's just a matter of taking the time to go, which one is best? How can that help me? Which will be, beneficial.
Yeah.
So
Hats off to you, because some people are old school and they're not going to want to continue to learn, but I
I think
believe
we have to.
yeah.
I think we have to. I think that's the way the industry is evolving.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you learn some good nuggets, we'll have you back and do another one. Any parting thoughts you want to share?
Parting thoughts. The great thing about PR is that, and having your own business, is that you can do it from anywhere. Like you can tell, I'm not in my office today. You have your computer, you have your phone, it's great. It's a great career. You meet fabulous people, smart people, creative people. And I think it's especially for people starting out, I think they can have a lot of fun with it. And you become a better writer. I know I've become a better writer over the years, and I've had great people that have been mentors to me. And it's a great field. I hope it'll continue to evolve. And I hope, the whole AI thing is, as I said, is going to be beneficial and not detrimental, hopefully.
Right.
Beneficial to us.
Well, so I love everything you share, and I know that there's so much more that we could go into, but we're going to try to keep it at about this time. But before we wrap it up, how could people get in touch with you if they had some other questions or wanted to get to know you better?
They can go, they can email me, jan@huntercopr.com. So that's HUNTERCOPR.com.
Okay, awesome. I'm Mike Byrnes. Spelled a little different, Byrnes. So you can search Mike Byrnes, or you can find byrnesconsulting.com. And we'll post this video on YouTube for others to, thanks for everybody that tuned in, and for others can watch this and share it. And we encourage you to ask questions. And anything else?
No, I think we summed it up. I think your questions were right on point.
Jan, you're awesome to be on. So thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Mike.
time, and I'll look forward to doing maybe another one of these down the road.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.